Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a case about a man who bet against his own company, stacked the deck, and is now trying to cash out. Arthur Jackson is the president and sole shareholder of the Flinders Aluminum Company. They make aluminum parts for houses, or at least they used to. In the fall of 2007, the Flinders Company was facing tough odds, and Arthur Jackson knew it. You will hear from Mr. Jackson's former bookkeeper that between 2006 and 2007, the company lost over $1 million. Additionally, you'll hear from Mr. John Anderson, the vice president of First Trust Bank, that lent money to the Flinders Corporation. He'll tell you that the Flinders Corporation owed his bank $400,000 that was due on November 28, 2007. He'll tell you that Mr. Jackson came to him and tried to renegotiate that loan and asked for additional financing, but that he told Mr. Jackson that he could not renegotiate the loan and requested more information before he would give out additional financing. Finally, Mr. Jackson himself will take the stand, and you'll hear from him that he tried to borrow $100,000 from his wife, but she turned him down. Now, strapped for cash, Mr. Jackson did something interesting. He upped his insurance premiums, his fire insurance premiums, for his facility. He raised his coverage from $835,000 to $1,667,000. Now, after upping his policy, you'll learn that only 6 weeks later, the building in which he had insured burned to the ground. The investigation that followed revealed that somebody had stacked the deck, that it was not an accident. Now, today you'll hear from Fire Marshal Donald Olson. And he'll come before you and he'll tell you about the physical evidence that led him to the conclusion that the fire that destroyed that facility was caused by arson. Pay attention to that physical evidence. Additionally, you'll hear from Miss Peterson. She's Mr. Jackson's personal assistant. And she'll tell you about George Avery, a man that Mr. Jackson hired to supposedly turn that company around. She'll tell you that she has experience with Mr. Peterson, with Mr. Avery, because she had worked with him previously. Fire Marshal Olson will tell you that he also has experience with Mr. Avery's work. He'll tell you that Mr. Avery was suspected in 2 other cases of arson. One, at a company where he had only worked for 2 weeks. Another, he'd been there 6 weeks. Both companies had significant fires that destroyed their facilities. Now, Ms. Peterson and Mr. Jackson will tell you that George Avery was a brilliant designer, that his resume listed degrees from Northwestern and Cornell. Fire Marshal Olson will tell you that when he called to find out about those degrees, Cornell and Northwestern told him they'd never heard of George Avery, had no record of it. You'll also learn that Mr. Jackson and Miss Peterson wrote Mr. Avery a check for $5,000 on November 1st, 2007. Less than 2 weeks later, on November 16th, the plant burned to the ground. The facts in this particular case are clear. Mr. Jackson was facing tough financial times. His company was in serious financial trouble, and he knew it. He responded by betting against his own company. He doubled his fire insurance policy. A month later, he paid a suspected arson $5,000, and 2 weeks later, the building burned down. Today, Mr. Jackson is here, and he wants you to cash him out. But after you've heard all the facts and evidence, I will come back before you and I will review those facts and evidence with you. At the end of today's trial, I will ask you to render a verdict for the Mismo Insurance Company. Thank you.